Welcome everyone for joining this session with Janine van Munster. She's building a super cool company, I think. But before I'm going to say anything about it, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell a bit more about Flouria and what you're building and which stage you are.
Yeah. Well, thanks, RJ. In any case, thank you so much for giving us a bit of the stage to also tell about our startup. So I'm Janine, I'm the co-founder of Flouria. And Flouria is a women's health platform that's designed to support female employees throughout crucial life phases. So we basically build an app that's delivered to employees of big companies where women can actually we try to reinvent how women can engage with well-being experts around topics like fertility, pregnancy, getting a first child, and eventually also including menopause and the cycle-related stuff. So I think we have a very big ambitions to also really close that gap of the women's health gap that is there. And we are pre-seed, so we just got the investment of Antler. So we're trying to go live in a couple of weeks, and so it's a very exciting time.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've been seeing everything from before you joined the residency, and already you had some of this idea going, but we'll talk about that more quite quickly. But before we do so, you also have a really interesting team formation story to tell. So tell us a bit more about how you fell in love with your first co-founder and then added the next one, and how that entire formation was going during the residency.
Yeah. So we talked about this before, right? So I was quite cynical before I joined the Antler cohort, to be super honest. So I was already working on this. The train was already going, and to some extent, seeing that someone's gonna jump on this moving train, that was something that I just didn't find a very realistic thing. But then I joined anyway, and I basically fell in love in the first day with Meg, one of my co-founders. And I also I remember that we have this presentation of all founders, and at the end of the day, I had 4 names on my list, 2 of which ended up being my co-founders quite quickly. So I tracked out with Meg first. With the 2 of us, we convinced Vlatko, our CTO, to come on board, and it's been we were one of those scenarios that we just met at the first day. We really connected, we joined up, and we never broke up. So it's been a kind of a perfect story in that way, and it also proved me wrong in terms of it is possible to get people on this moving train and actually also change direction of the train. So that was really cool.
Nice, thanks. Thanks for that. And for everyone's listening in, please use the Q&A chat, because we're gonna go through some of those questions at the end. So please use that, and we can get some of them live in a couple of minutes. Yeah, that's a great story, Janine. I know that you also added someone else later down the line, but before we go there, I also would love to hone in a bit on your idea and the origination of that. And it's probably a bit of a personal thing, so do tell whatever you can tell, but don't go into the deep if you don't want to. But it's still interesting to hear also how you got to the idea and how this idea has been developing over time.
Yeah, so thanks for saying that, but I'm super transparent about it, just because it's also kind of part of the business. So my story is that I tried to freeze my eggs a couple of years ago, and I found out that I have low fertility, actually, by coincidence. So I was quite healthy, and just had some new surgery, and everybody's like, yo, your values are the best ever. And then a few weeks later, actually, basically they said my female hormones are very low, and I have chances of early onset menopause. And then it was a life-changing moment for me in terms of how my personal life looked like. It actually really impacted my work, but I also really saw the shortcomings of the Dutch healthcare system, and how literally the doctor said to me, she helped me with the eggs. Actually, that was great, and I was also very thankful for her for that. And then I asked for a referral, and she literally said to me yeah, but you're not sick. And this was a gynecologist, right? So she should know. And then I'm not the type to just accept that. So I basically became a female well-being expert myself, and actually especially got to know my own body in a very, very different way. And then I saw all these UK and US companies who are really making a change for women's health, who are trying to help women actually get answers to their questions, and I was so inspired by it. And they use B2B models, so they actually leverage the power of the employer who wants to take care of their employee to make that change and actually create that space and solve the business model to some extent. And then I was just so inspired that I thought, like, I need to do this myself. We need this in Europe, you know. This is what we also have female hormones, and we also need some solving here. So that was
Luckily
that was
enough.
the setup. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And I think it's been inspiring a bunch of people also doing the residency, and you got quick traction with some of the employers that are picking this up and see this as something useful and beneficial to their employees. What has been your sort of proudest moment along the journey? Like things that you are like, okay, this was amazing. Maybe it's one thing or two things, but something that really make you feel like I'm doing the right thing here.
Yeah, so I really love this question because it also made me reflect a little bit. And I think one of the, like, so we, of course, like signing our first client and also really getting positive feedback of clients and users is something that makes me proud on almost a daily basis. Last week we're honing into this going live. So last week I had the actual Flouria logo as a testing app on my phone for the first time. Yeah, so that kind of feels like, okay, it's real. But I guess like my proudest moment is actually going to be this afternoon, because we have our all hands this afternoon with the team, and we really significantly grew, and we're with 8 people now, which I think is so amazing. Thinking of that, like little over 6 months ago, I was still by myself, and now we're with 8 people working on this. And yeah, it's been like a snowball effect, like people wanting to contribute, and it just that makes me very, very proud.
Super cool to hear. Thanks for that. And I've got 2 questions in one given time. And one if I'm trying to combine 2 things, which is, what was your most valuable moment during, the entire Antler experience? And then also related to that, probably, what would you advise anyone joining an Antler residency to do well from the get-go?
Yeah, so I think like most valuable, it's an interesting thing. I've compared it to some extent to kind of like a student like sorority kind of situation where you do a bit of hazing in terms of like, it's like a process, right? You need to go through the process. So and so all of these combined is just one very valuable experience. I think like meeting Meg and Vlatko was of course like the most important thing, and actually getting them on board, but also the entire rest of the cohort. Like we see each other regularly, we have very strong connection, which is so valuable when you're starting this company. So all these connections, and also meeting Sophie, our advisor, like these are all very, very relevant things. And I think like I also thought about this advice thing. I think I have 2 things. One is try to keep it short, but I really love the Sifted article, which also had 2 Antler founders of like this personal drive. I really would recommend before you start before you start the cohort, please think about what is your personal drive. What are the things that you really want solving? It can be also something for your grandma or for your mom or for your kid or whatever, but what drives you personally? And I think also copying a bit of the advice of Sam Altman, right? You should be in love with building a company, not only a product, because that's what I also noticed already. Like there's so much things, not only building the product and solving the problem, but also like building this company, and that just also takes also a lot of energy. So it's something that you should really think about before you start. It's not a project, it's not a work project. This is going to be your life.
It's not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. No, it's really not a sprint.
Even though you probably feel like you're sprinting every day.
All the time, yes.
Hey, look, we need to dive in, given time, to some questions from the audience today, and I got a couple of interesting ones coming in. Some of them are more related to your business, others more to your personnel setup, but still, let's start with the very first one, which is like, okay, what is your revenue model? And I know it's something we've discussed in the past as well, so I think it's a crucial question, and I know you have an answer.
Yeah, so we're quite like strong on the B2B2C business model in terms of like the companies pay an annual fee for all the potential users, so all the female employees per year. We don't divert from that like a user-based model or something, because there's very strong value in also trustworthiness, and it needs to be anonymous. And then so that's one. And I am a sucker for business models in general, that I feel like you should really build this in such a way that you can also make it a profitable company. And that's so much easier if you, like said, actually leverage that need for the employers to take care of their employees. So that's why we actually sell it into companies. Not saying that maybe in 5 years from now we're going to go through insurance companies and B2B, B2C, etc. Like, so we have very big ambitions. So maybe we'll, but the first few years we're going to focus on the companies. There's enough to do.
Yeah, no, there's enough to do indeed. Another question that popped in is about your team setup and, predominantly about how many technical people you have in your team.
Yeah.
And personally extending on that, like, how would you see this evolve over time?
Yeah, so I think that that's really the difference that we make, to be honest. Like, there's some companies, a lot of companies working on female well-being and female health, which is super important, by the way. So I love that there's more and more popping up. I think what we do differently is that we really solve it in a tech way. And I think Antler really helped with that, by the way. The ambition, so we have one CTO and 2 developers and 1 UX designer. That's currently our product team. Of course, and us also working with the product in general. And they are just super important. So we really are seeing a future where we have a lot of developers solving, really reinventing the way that we actually consume this health. So really focusing on the reinvention, not just digitizing what's already there, but actually creating something new to actually really solve that engagement issue and really solve that, or that people actually get the answers that they need.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Hey, thanks for that. I think we're officially out of time.
Yeah.
I would like to do one more question that came in, and we'll, but you have to be quick because otherwise we're not
Okay,
going to keep to the 12 minutes and 30 seconds. Which is, what is founding in the current funding climate like?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm kicking off the angel round on Friday, so I can let you know in a couple of months exactly. I must say that I was an investor before, so I have quite a good network. I hope it will be okay. And also, look, it has a lot of upsides. I love that people are talking about profitable businesses as well, and there's just also a bit less competition of people just like promising castles, etc. Right? So I think like we have a very strong story and a strong business model. So I am confident that I will get some people to join our ride. Yeah. I think, sorry, that's I think my answer. I think it is more challenging, but it's one of the, I have 50 challenges and this is just one of them. So let's just solve them.
Let's solve it when it gets there. Thanks, Janine, for your time and for the answers and transparency, also on a personal level that you've been giving. That was super helpful. So thanks everyone for joining the session. There's a couple questions that we were not able to answer, but we'll get back to those people hopefully quickly. If you have any questions to Janine about her company, about her journey, she's on LinkedIn, very present. You can find her. Ping her if you have any questions. If there's any questions about the residency, the timing, the details of that, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the Antler team. Yeah, I hope this was useful for the people watching and the people that will watch it later when we have the recorded version available. So thanks everyone, and hope to touch base soon.